I made a video quite some time ago about how I annotate my books. I think it's time for a little update, so let's get straight into it. I'm currently reading Cleopatra and Frankenstein and I am annotating it, so I'm just going to use this as my example. First, I'm going to talk about things that I actually use. First up, you don't need to do this, but this is one of my favorite things to do when I annotate. It's making a bookmark for that book. So I've bought a bunch of cardboard bookmarks that have a little hole in it, and then I've bought multicolored tassels to go with it so I can match them to my books. This is the bookmark I've used for Cleopatra and Frankenstein. I've made it specifically for this book so that instead of putting this on the front page, I have a little bookmark for it and the tassel matches. Pretty much everything was from Amazon. I'll leave a little list in my link tree in my bio just in case you want to easily find everything. Same goes for these little tabs. You're going to need these. And again, optional, you don't have to highlight the quotes. You can just use those annotation tabs, but I do highlight the quotes as well. Get yourself some highlighters that aren't going to seep through the page. For example, I'm using Bible highlighters because they're not meant to go through the paper. And if you're wanting to write in your book, get yourself some gel pens. That's what I've done. I don't really write in my books typically, but I do have them just in case. And just to show you what my annotations typically look like, I'll just open to a random page that has a few. Literally just highlight the quotes and then I tab next to it with the right category. Now, an important part of all this is how do you know what categories to put on your bookmark? What are you annotating? You haven't read the book, so you don't know what to highlight. I do two things. First thing I'll do is actually search up in TikTok Cleopatra and Frankenstein annotation guide. Sometimes people will show you what they annotated in that book. However, not always. I actually couldn't find anything for Cleopatra and Frankenstein. So what I typically do is every bookmark is going to have an option for just quotes because I feel like every book is going to have quotes you want to highlight. I'll typically also add one for OMG moments, funny, sad, depending on the vibe of the book. If you're not too sure, I typically will read a couple of pages, maybe even a whole chapter, just to gauge what's going on a little bit, and I'll add them as I go. So for example, I added Cleo at the bottom after I had read a bit of the book because I realized that there were going to be a lot of quotes from her that I wanted to make sure I was tabbing. So you don't need to have this figured out when you start. You can add to it as you figure out what the book's about. And that's kind of it. It's quite straightforward the way I do it. You can obviously go that step further and write in your books. You can do a bunch of stuff with annotating, but I do it pretty simply and I'm loving it. And look how cute it looks in the end. I just think it looks really cool.